Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking about the conference championship weekend, but mostly want to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. So going into this weekend, we'll talk about the games first. Thought it was pretty evenly matched for both games. We have an interesting situation, which I'm sure has happened before, but not one that I actively remember, where you have both conference championship games and the Super Bowl are all rematches from this year that we've seen before. So we've had ability to know kind of how these two might fill each other out. And you can compare and contrast to the older game. And so going into it, if you would have asked me who's the bigger lock between the Chiefs and Packers, I would have took the Chiefs, but I thought, the Packers had a very good chance to battle with the Bucs. The question was going to be Lambeau. Once I saw there was no snow on the ground, I was like, okay, both quarterbacks have an equal amount of chance to put this ball in the air. And then you kind of think about the run game, and that to me was really a focal point, because Leonard Fournette has been picking up the last few weeks, and then Ronald Jones working his way in there, so they could run the ball decently. And the Packers are known for giving up big plays in the run. I wouldn't say known, but that's what they've been doing this year. And then on the opposite side, you got the Buccaneers, where run defense is their thing, and then they added back Vita Vea. So it was looking like, okay, that's really going to be the tail of the tape here. And then obviously Aaron Jones got hurt or whatnot. But as we all saw, this game came down to what it usually does. There's rarely a time where a game is just, straight shootout back and forth. A lot of times it comes down to the turnovers and the mistakes and the other team's ability to capitalize on that mistakes. So again, you had mistakes, interceptions, turnovers happening from Green Bay, and then Tampa cashing in on those repeatedly. And especially with the last second touchdown before the half, which really turned the game from the Bucs' favor to heavy momentum towards the Bucs. And so I think that was a big spot there. But then you had Tom Brady starting to throw interceptions and, having some miscues. And, obviously, tipped off the hands and that stuff too. But either way, it was an interception. But Green Bay didn't cash in at the rate that the Buccaneers did. And especially when you're the underdog, you have to cash in on opportunities. But winning teams do that in general. Now, part of that is the Bucs defense stepping up again against the run to make it a one-dimension game. Part of that is the coverage played on Devontae Adams and all that. But the other part is Tom Brady then delivering on the other side to get that, turnover to become points. And obviously, even going down to the wire, the Packers stayed in it, and there was different decisions there. But overall, it comes down to what it usually does. Like, who's turning the ball over and who's capitalizing on mistakes. And so very impressive what Tom Brady has done. Definitely want to say that. I've always been a big Brady fan. But for people to really realize what he's done, not just they're going to play a Super Bowl at home, and not even that he was playing well in a new team to this point to get to the Super Bowl. But the fact, and I wouldn't say this is all Brady, but I would say impressive overall, is that he was part of a team that started to take on a championship DNA this quickly. Because, yes, they had talent. Yes, Godwin, Mike Evans were talented. Yes, O.J. Howard and Brady had talent. Yes, they had Devin White, who had a great rookie year, Levante David, who has always been great. And then, a lot of pieces. But none of these guys that I can really think of have been champions, and definitely not on a consistent basis. And even Bruce Arians, who is the head coach and has a part to play this year in changing the culture, but he didn't really instill that culture previously. And so when you got all these guys that are talented but have never really put in the work to be champions and to win, it is interesting. I think having a guy like Levante David, who's always been high character, high effort, that helps. I think Sue, being the veteran has been, being around, wanting it, that helps. I think Gronk coming in, knowing what it takes, that helps. But overall, by and large, even, Tristan Wirfs is a big name for them on the offensive line. He's a rookie, and he comes from Iowa, not like he comes from Bama, where they win a lot, or it's championship-wise. And then Ronald Jones, Fournette, they haven't won any. So it's so much inexperience around him that it is very mind-blowing. Rarely happens to see culture flip like this, and at least flip to the point where you can get through tough games, because the Buccaneers weren't the juggernauts. If they were the number one NFC seed and they were just much more talented and boat racing everybody, then it'd be different because they didn't have to go through that controversy. This team fought not only through the season, but then all road games in the playoffs, and to beat Green Bay like that by capitalizing on mistakes and not, falling down to the pressure. Now, can they come back and win? That's a different story, but it's impressive. Now, the Chiefs-Bills, the only thing I really got to say about that, we know what the Chiefs' offense is and Mahomes and all that. Josh Allen's just got some more growth to do. His mechanics and accuracy, his decision-making have made leaps and bounds. And I don't use that hyperbole-wise. They literally made leaps and bounds. And while I've seen him do well in the pocket and him talk about the importance of the pocket, last night shows he has a lot of work to do, because he wants to escape to his right. He wants to throw it cross-body. He wants to use that arm. He wants to run out of the pocket. And he wants to do those things, but he's got to understand, especially when you are down, you have to be able to stay in the pocket and make plays. And so, not to say that there isn't time where everything's covered and you got to escape to extend the play, but there's times where you have to stay in the pocket and make plays. Take the hit, because that half a second is the difference between the window being open for a receiver and for you getting sacked or whatever. And so he's got a little bit of ways to go with that. And obviously, as great as I think the OC has been, they got to get better with the run game. There's no excuse. And they got some good runs. Yeldon coming in, going over 40, and most of the other running backs haven't done that. And I don't even think those are bad running backs. They just got to commit more and figure out more. And it's interesting because that's all they really did was run. Went before Josh, kind of evolved. But they got to get more committed and balanced on offense. But he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. So it's going to be interesting to see them in the AFC. All right. Now, with all that, the conversation this morning, which I did not expect, but, the talking media always surprises me, is that Aaron Rodgers should be upset. Aaron Rodgers should want to leave Green Bay. All this because they didn't go for it. Now, I'll tell you exactly, I'm sitting in the same seat I was when I was watching the game. I told my friends that was watching with me, I'm like, yeah, they going for it here. He's like, no, they kicking the field goal. And I was like, no, you got to go for it. He's like, they're going to kick a field goal and then try to get the ball back and score. I'm like, but you could do it that way, but that doesn't, not in this type of game. You got to go for it here. And to my surprise, they kicked it. Now, even with that, was I like, okay, you got two people, small sample, but two people saw it very differently. Cool. And so they kicked it. I'm like, all right, not what I would have did, but all right. And we move on. And then everybody is talking about that decision right now. And I don't like that particular type of conversations when it comes to football, because players do that a lot, whatever. If you aren't mature in the game, then you fixate on one play. I mean, fans do that all the time. People come in comments, they fixate on that one decision, that one play. And as I've said many times, going back with my good old Bears and the Parkey miss double doink, one play does not make a game. It does not. It does not matter. As most smart players will tell you, if they have done their job prior, you wouldn't have been in that situation. Whether you leave it in the hands of the refs with a flag or whether you leave it to a play call or anything, if you've done your job prior, then you wouldn't be in that situation. So trying to say the rest of the game doesn't matter as much as that play is not true. That the rest of the game is the thing that leads you up to that point. And so I wasn't going nuts over it. It is what it is. But a lot of people seem to think that was a big issue. Now, overall, what I'm hearing is that Aaron Rodgers, so we go back to the same old conversation. Aaron Rodgers haven't had a first round receiver. They drafted a quarterback. I just, for the life of me, cannot understand this argument. I cannot understand the discussion because Aaron Rodgers, it does not matter if it's a first round receiver, a third, fourth, or fifth, or eighth, or whatever. Like, if you have a top 3 receiver, you have a top 3 receiver. I don't care. That's like the Pittsburgh Steelers when they had AB going off saying, oh man, they don't care about the offense because they didn't get a first round receiver. What? Like, what are you talking about? Or the Patriots don't care about the quarterback position because they haven't got a first round quarterback. They just only got this 6th round quarterback, Tom Brady. Bruh, what are you talking about? It don't matter when you drafted them. Like, that stuff blows my mind. You could have drafted a receiver if you were Green Bay, and that receiver could have never played this whole year. Or any other position you say. Like, it that doesn't matter. What does the product matter, or does like the context of where you got them matter? That's what I have to ask you. That's like saying if they signed a bunch of free agents and then you complain, well, they never trade for nobody. They don't go out and none of these players that he's thrown to was traded for. Shut up. Like, who cares? Like, if you have the talent, you have the talent, because the narrative is they got a quarterback and they don't support Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has the best left tackle in football and one of the best offensive line when they were healthy in that starting 5 unit were rated. The last 2 years have been one of the best offensive lines in football. You got Devontae Adams, a top 3 receiver in football. You have a running back in Aaron Jones who is really good. And then behind that, you got Jamal Williams and now A.J. Dillon. You got a run game. And not even just that, Aaron Jones, obviously a really good pass catcher. So you have a weapon at running back that a lot of people would love to have. And so does it matter that you don't have high caliber or high status people, but they produce? Or do you want high status people that don't produce? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't mean anything to me if Lazard was a different name and had the exact same yards. Like, if you had Justin Jefferson instead of Lazard and they did the exact same thing, whatever. Like, they're producing. They're able to do what you're asking them to do. Everybody wants names and status. So what? So what? This is why, and as a draft person, it super annoys me because that's so dumb. Like, I get it when we're talking about the Patriots. The Patriots, again, still got results, so that matters. But the Patriots didn't have any top tier talent. Yes, they got results, but they didn't have peer talent on the top level at receiver. That's fine. You can make that argument. Devontae Adams is the top tier. And so, you know, David Bakhtiari, the top tier. That's a silly argument to me. On top of that, you got some people attacking Matt LaFleur and questioning him, mainly Stephen A. Smith. Now, look, you went 13-3 back-to-back NFC championship games. And yes, you can say Aaron Rodgers is a big part of that, but then in that case, you could look at any team with a good quarterback and be like, oh, it's just because they got a good quarterback. I'm not saying it's not possible that LaFleur isn't impacting the team at a large rate, but just by saying your evidence is, oh, they got Aaron Rodgers, so I'm predicting that Matt LaFleur is not doing a great job at coach. They're only winning because of Aaron Rodgers. That's weak evidence. At the same trip, you could say, well, Aaron Rodgers was winning before LaFleur got here. Yes, I can understand that too. And again, any team with talent, if we're going to sit here and say, well, that just means the coach isn't doing their job. I mean, or the coach is riding the coattails, like, that's just a weak argument to me. And again, I don't know. I mean, we could really look at the job of the head coach and see what's what. I mean, we can't, but if we were in the building, we could. And then you can make a better determination. But to sit here and blame him as if he's the problem, because so we got to the NFC Championship, we won all these games because of Aaron Rodgers. But when we lose, it's because of the coach. That's silly. Now, on top of that, people are blaming him for the decision. And for that, I go back to the same thing I said earlier. The whole game is not that one call. There's a lot of different factors that led up to that point. Was that the call I would have made? Absolutely not. But does that then mean LaFleur was horrible that game? Like some people kept saying he was horrible that game. Show me. And I'm not even outright saying you're wrong, but show me. If you're saying he was horrible because of that one call, I don't want to hear that. A horrible game is not one call. So the attack for Matt LaFleur is just wild to me. And then this whole discussion about Rodgers not having any weapons or being disrespected because they don't invest in him. There's articles. They need to do what the Bucs did and go all in. I mean, this goes to the last point. And I think it was a good point by Max Kellerman. Where should he go? What situation are you pointing to that's better? Because yes, he could go other places that do things differently. But if we want to sit here and say the Bucs went all in and the Packers won't ever do it, well, what do you call the roster the Packers have? And not even, skip the offense. And I understand the defensive stats, but look at what they have. Point blank period, Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith are top notch. I wouldn't say like elite, top tier, but they're top notch type talent on the edge. Kenny Clark is one of the best interior linemen. That's homegrown. Jair Alexander is one of the best cover corners. That's homegrown. Adrian Amos has been a big time safety for the Green Bay Packers since they got him from the Bears. Like the linebacking crew is not looking good. They didn't pay Blake Martinez to stay. But overall, you have so much talent on that defense. And again, I'm not saying they're the best or anything, but people keep talking about how bad it is in Green Bay. Show me this other team that's sitting there and waiting. Now, the Tampa Bay Bucks, it worked out. And the defense is good. Defense is really good. They're not excellent. They got a lot of holes in the secondary. But with that front being as good as it is, you can play tight man coverage and get away with a lot of stuff. That was ready-made. And then you got big-time receivers. That was there. Once they got Tristan Wirfs, the offensive line solidified much better. That was a good ready-made team. Show me the team. Unless he going to the Saints, which I guess is possible if Breeze leaves. But other than that, what are you pointing at? And what is this team going to do that shows that they're all in? I just don't get what this conversation is about the Packers not doing anything for them. And if all you have is, they didn't get a first-round receiver. then that's a weak argument. I'm not listening to that. That is not at all answering the actual question. And so that's how I feel about it. I think it's absolutely silly. Now, what will Aaron do? I don't know. I'm sure he's frustrated, but to think somebody as smart as Aaron, especially when it comes to football, walks away from that game and says, oh, man, we won 13 games, but all of this is because I didn't have that rookie receiver. No, that rookie receiver has nothing to do with the interceptions, has nothing to do with not capitalizing on turnovers, has nothing to do with Kevin King getting burnt right before the half. Like that, no, that's not there. And so I highly doubt Aaron Rodgers is what some people saying, sitting around like, they should have drafted that receiver. That would have changed everything yesterday. You went 13-3, he's the number 1 seed. And so obviously the offense is pretty good. So that's how I fall with it. Again, not going for it. I'm sure, yes, you could second guess a million decisions throughout the season. And I'm sure that's one that's going to eat at them. But that's the game of football. That ain't some big travesty, in my opinion. So, again, he might leave or, ask for a trade or something. But I don't think it's as big as the media is trying to blow it up. So, anyway, that's it for me. Go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. And thank you for listening.